Hi everyone, welcome to another one of these reaction video things in the series I still don't have a name for. It was kind of big news. Walt Disney World celebrated its 50th anniversary this past week with a lot of new things, many of which I've been getting a lot of comments asking you guys for me to react to. So we're just gonna do that. We're gonna not only talk about HarmonioUS and Enchantment, which definitely deserve a video of their own, but, I mean, they're not going to get one because I'm busy. But we're also gonna talk about the new Cavalcades, we're gonna talk about Kite Tails, and we're gonna talk about the Electrical Water Pageant update. And then I'll just probably do a quick grab bag at the end of some other stuff. And if I forget stuff, it was probably intentional, but if you really want me to react to specific things, leave me a comment and I will respond with my specific thoughts on that thing. Anyway, Chris is also here with me.
Hey guys.
Yeah. Chris, I actually got to see many of these in person. Chris, you were not.
I was in the other side of the country.
Yeah.
Just at Disneyland.
Right. Honestly, after watching several of these, I kind of wish I was at Disneyland during that time. But it's okay, because it was still an amazing weekend. But, we've got a lot of stuff to cover, so let's just get right to that. So, starting off our video today is going to be the Cavalcades, specifically the new ones at Magic Kingdom and Disney's Animal Kingdom. Chris, do you have any opening thoughts?
So, for Magic Kingdom's Cavalcade, okay, this is really, there's not much to talk about these Cavalcades since, it's a Cavalcade, it's only like 1 or 2 floats. The only thing that I could really acknowledge, or that's interesting is, those really weird tarp things that in Magic Kingdom are like waving around? Those like white, blue, purple colors. It was interesting that it was like a fan in a way, like those Chinese fans that you can open up, right?
Yeah.
It's like exactly like that, but much longer. I actually wonder how that was made and doesn't break.
They remind me a lot of the like purple, pink, and blue ones they used in the Magic Happens finale. Although I haven't done enough research to find out if they are the same design, and most likely I will not have that research done by the time this video comes out, since I'm going to be trying to get this out as soon as possible. But that said, I think the Cavalcades were cute. Obviously, I'd rather have a full parade back. I'd rather have Festival of Fantasy with a special tag. But, these were nice. They were rethemed floats of units that I hate, but, the song was nice.
I think they've been using the exact same floats, right, for the Cavalcades recently?
Those present floats have been around for a long time. Those have been around since Move It, Shake It. And then the one that, the first one, the smaller one that's lower to the ground has been around since the new dance party they do. I don't know the name. I don't really care. I hate them both. But, sure, I could harp on the fact that they're reused floats, but, it was cute. It's not anything to write home about, but it's
just cute. That's just it. I don't hate it, but I don't love it.
Yeah, exactly. And, again, the song is really cute. The character appearances are very nice. And they actually brought back quite a few dancers for this, which makes me very happy. So, yeah, this didn't make me too mad. I thought it was a fine little addition. And, this is actually the perfect opportunity, before we get into the rest of these, to talk about the main theme song. We'll talk about You Are the Magic with Enchantment later, because I do have some thoughts on that. But, The Magic is Calling is legitimately a very good song. It's very Tokyo for them to write a theme song for an anniversary. We haven't gotten that Disneyland got Live the Magic for the 60th, but for Florida, we haven't gotten a specific theme song for an anniversary since Remember the Magic with the 25th. So it's nice. You could make an argument for Share a Dream Come True for the 30th in 2001, but really that was to time with 100 Years of Magic, so I don't think that really counts.
Wasn't there technically a song for the 40th or 45th anniversary? It was in the Welcome Show, the original version?
They didn't do anything for those two.
Okay.
They did a special greeting show for the 40th, but they didn't get a special song.
Oh, I thought that theme song they played throughout the welcome show was the theme song.
No, that's been around for a while, I think. I could be wrong. It's late. I don't remember everything. But I think that's been around for a hot second. I think it was in the trolley show before that. I don't remember, but...
Oh yeah, I think it was, now that I think about it.
I think it's been around for a while. Anyway, the point is, it's a nice theme song. I'm very glad we have a dedicated theme song to this anniversary. In fact, we have two, which we'll get into later. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about the Cavalcades enough, and we have a lot to talk about with the rest of these, so let's move on. Okay, so moving on to what has been universally considered the single worst aspect of the celebration so far, and I can't say I disagree, Kite Tails. It's really very bad. Like, I'm sorry, it is legitimately terrible. I have no idea. I don't know how to say anything nice about this one. I mean, Chris, you said while we were talking before this that you have, like, one nice thing. Like, go ahead, say something.
Yes, I have one nice thing. So we all know that those massive kites, right? No one has, like, Simba.
Yeah, they look terrible.
The bird, right? The wind literally smashes their face to like a flat surface, which is pretty funny and like terrible at the exact same time. But one of them actually looks good, and it's the Pumbaa one.
I disagree with you on that. I'm sorry.
I don't know. It just looks so animated because, like, you know, I have no idea why. That's the only thing I actually enjoy about that show.
I think the issue is, I'll put this in the editing. If you look at the concept art versus what we actually got, it's laughable. It's absolutely ridiculous. But that said, what we actually got was, terrible. I had very high hopes for this show, specifically because the concept art looked fantastic. And this is a huge disappointment. I'm sorry. Like, first of all, why is Baloo teal? That's my first question, and that's the first of several others, which I'm not going to get into here, because we have too much to talk about, but this show is legitimately one of the worst pieces of entertainment I've ever seen.
And I believe the seating area is built for Rivers of Light, so there's no, like, tarp or shading for anyone that's sitting under the sun, like, for, 10-15 minutes? So I feel really bad for those people, and, like, the show's just so boring. I feel bad for, like, if it's like a husband, like, bringing his wife or something like that, like, they're gonna have a miserable time. I
don't disagree, and I forgot about that. You're right. That was not built as an outdoor theater, or that was not built as a daytime theater. Yeah. It was built for Rivers of Light. I get why they couldn't put, like, a canopy on it, because that would block the show, but, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, it'll block the giant kites landing into the seating area. I think that's why.
I think I mentioned this we both mentioned this since you also wrote that video. In the Rivers of Light video, I like the original Rivers of Light. I think it was an underrated show. I thought it was a perfect little kiss goodnight for Animal Kingdom.
It just lacks some technological
I wouldn't even say that. I wouldn't even say that. I just think that it wasn't... After all, because it had been delayed like 100 times, so I think that after all the hype, it just didn't live up to it. And I think then they Chapek'd it and added all the IPs and made it atrocious, but...
this is even more Chapek.
We'll get to that. Believe me, we'll get to that. But...
Yeah.
It's a very bad show. I can't think of, a single good thing about it. I'm sorry. Like, the Crush puppets look better than the others, but they still don't look good. Like, I'm sorry, I can't think of any. Like, it's a very bad show.
Yeah, like, I know I hear people say, like, oh, you have to watch it multiple times to like it. But my big thought, or my thought that always comes to me is that, the millions or thousands of guests who come into this park only probably like once every like 10 years. So they probably won't have one time to see this show in that one park. They won't gonna be here for a week because it's so expensive. So I think Disney should have made the show right perfectly, so that even though you're watching on video, you watch it for the first time, it should hit you in an emotional or in a fun way, which Disney Enchantment, which we will talk about soon.
We'll get there. But you're totally right. You are like, Joe Idaho is not going to give this a second chance. He's, like, he's going to see it, he's going to say, wow, that sucked, and then he's going to leave. Like, you're absolutely right, and it's not really, like, it's okay to say, like, oh, like, watch it several times if it's something like, I don't know, Harmonious, which is going to hopefully be there for a very long time, and if not, wow, that was a waste of money, but we'll get there. And for something for pass holders, I can see that argument, but when it comes to people who really do come to Disney World once every 5 or 10 years, these shows are not going to meet those expectations, especially Kite Tails, because Kite Tails, I'm sorry, like, at least Enchantment and Harmonious can, like, if you didn't see Happily Ever After, if you didn't see Illuminations, they could trick you into thinking that's a good show. But with this, I mean, Kite Tails just looks really, 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 really cheap and bad. And that's evidenced by the fact that these floats, like, it's gotten so much bad press. Like, I mean, the jet skis were flipping over, the kites crashed into trees. Like, it's been a rough week, and it's a terrible show, and I don't think people are going to give it a second chance if they're there for their once every 5 or 10 year vacation.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's also, like, I rode Avatar Flight of Passage for the first time on my past trip, and I will say, I mean, that is, I think, the single best ride at Walt Disney World now that I've been on it. I am confident in saying that. But if you were to choose between any ride at that park and Kite Tails, I don't think after seeing Kite Tails once, you would want to even try and give it a second chance, given what other options you have at that park. Because I can't, like, obviously there are a couple of throwaway rides. Actually, I can really only think of one, and that's Triceratops Spin. But really, I could, even, like, Kali River Rapids, which I'm not going to, like, say is a fantastic ride, I would, I think, prefer to ride that over this, because at least, like, on a hot day, that'll, like, cool you off, or, like, it has some benefit to it. But especially when you start talking about, like, Expedition Everest, or Kilimanjaro Safaris, or Avatar, like, any of that, like, I would not give up any of those in favor of Kite Tails, because it's just idiotic to think that way, because it is just so bad. Like, would I see it once? Absolutely. But I'm not gonna sacrifice riding some of the greatest attractions ever created by the Walt Disney Company in favor of giving this crappy, shoddy piece of junk a second shot. I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. Like, and I can't imagine other people would be either.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Like, I don't know what they were thinking. I think that Chapek just wanted a show that we could just make for the 5th anniversary, since there was no entertainment. Oh, there's a lot of live entertainment in Animal Kingdom, I think, and like this just, I think they just want to make use of this space that they built, this like multi-million seating area, and now it's just sitting abandoned because they just they scrapped out the Rivers of Light parts already.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, and you spoke to something there, which is Animal Kingdom. You said Animal Kingdom has a lot of live entertainment.
Yeah.
The answer to that is, well, they did before the pandemic, and then they were like, uh-oh, we don't want to keep any of this because it's expensive, so they fired everyone. The good news is, I mean, they announced this morning a lot of it's coming back. I don't remember what groups specifically, because I've been very busy all day, unfortunately, but I do remember that I saw that some of the Animal Kingdom performers are coming back, which is wonderful. I think also they justified ripping out a lot of stuff to build this amphitheater. So I feel like they feel this obligation to keep it filled, because they ripped out Jam and Jungle. I mean, that was also for Avatar, but they really cited it as Rivers of Light was going to be that show's permanent replacement. And that Jam and Jungle Parade was, I mean, it wasn't a favorite of mine, but people loved it. People still talk about that parade to this day. I mean, it was just a fan favorite. People adored it. And I think they now realize that they have to justify closing that by at least filling that amphitheater. But that said, I think this is probably the most atrocious show I've ever seen. And I mean, yeah, I mean, even if you look, I mean, look at, I mean, Animal Kingdom's never had a daytime show before, so you can't really compare this to anything else. But Epcot has, in its history, had 2 daytime shows. One of them was infamously horrible, and that was Skyleidoscope, which was renamed by the, people who watched it as The Mistake on the Lake. And I think that this is going to end up being The Mistake on the Lake 2.0. Because I think, as bad as Skyleidoscope was, and I'm not going to come to the defense of Skyleidoscope, Skyleidoscope killed people. I'm not going to come to the defense of that show. But, at least they tried with it. They put money into those floats, even if they were freaking bizarre. This is just the single cheapest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, and this is just the beginning of us seeing Chapek, so I'm actually scared of what we're gonna have next, or what he would do to the park.
We'll get there with Enchantment, but anyway, with that said, that actually is a perfect way to move on to Enchantment. Alright, so let's talk about Enchantment.
Oh boy.
Yikes.
Oh boy.
I think you have more feelings on this one than I do. Do you mind if I just start it off and get my feelings out of the way?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So, I think it's easy to say this is the single worst show the Magic Kingdom has ever seen. I think Fantasy in the Sky is better, in case people are wondering. Which is saying something, because I'm not a huge fan of Fantasy in the Sky at all. But, I mean, this show is terrible. I'm sorry. I wanted to like it. I really did. I really wanted to like this show, but it really just has nothing that I want. It has nothing that anyone wanted. It was a, watered-down version of Happily Ever After with worse transitions. And, I mean, I keep seeing people saying that it has more pyro than Happily. And, I mean, that's possible. I'm not an expert, and I haven't, read up on if that's true. But it feels like a lot less. So, I don't know. Maybe it is more expensive. Maybe it does have more pyro. It did not feel that way to me when I was watching it.
Yeah, and I believe you saw this in person, right, on opening day?
I did see this. I didn't see it because they did the stupid preview for invited media, aka people who weren't going to boo Bob Chapek off the stage. And I saw it on October 1st. I saw it on the first day it went public. And, I mean, they ripped out, I think, the single best show that Magic Kingdom has seen, at least in the last 5 years. I mean, that's not fair. It's been the only show Magic Kingdom has seen in the last 5 years. But it's easily, I think, the second best. It's the best regularly scheduled fireworks show Magic Kingdom has had. Because I do think Magic Music and Mayhem is also phenomenal and deserves to go on that same tier. I don't necessarily know if I would say it's better than that. I've had some changes in opinion since I recorded the Nighttime Spectacular ranking video. No, I'm not going to do a second one of those, but my opinions have altered slightly. And, I mean, I think Happily is one of, if not the single best fireworks shows in the history of this company. And the fact that they ripped it out for this heartless piece of junk with bad transitions and just, I mean, Angela Bassett's C material. I love Angela Bassett. Her voice is like butter, and I adore most of her work. But, I mean, why, though? Why is she saying this? It doesn't make sense. And also, this is something that multiple people were pointing out to me. The You Are the Magic really feels like pandering. It's basically saying, you, the guest who has paid the money and is coming here, are the magic. Give us more money. That's the main thing. Anyway, I feel like I've been talking a lot about this, and I know you have a lot of thoughts. So, Chris, I'll let you go off now.
So, I want to start at the very beginning of the show, the introduction. I really do love the theme song, and I think one of the biggest problems in this intro is the power usage. It just did not fit well. You know how Happily Ever After became really slow, so they only used a projection, right? And they only used fires when the music would start to build up. Enchantment started almost like instantly when the song started to play, which I think didn't really hit you well. And to go for what you said earlier about the firework, if it looked cheaper or not. To my sources, it's actually more expensive because Disney has now been custom making these pyro. It's no longer what the fire companies have, like like most common. So it's technically more expensive than Happy Ever After, but it uses less fireworks to what I can see.
Can I just add 2 things to that really quickly?
Yeah.
Because I think you're right about the pyro. That's what I've heard too, is that they are like designing their own stuff now. My only thing is like, no one asked you to do that. No one was complaining about Happy's pyro. Happily had fantastic pyro, so I'm sorry. It's a more expensive show that looks worse in my opinion. Yeah. So I don't know. But also the thing you said about that the music really doesn't build up to that first burst, and that's really true through the entire show. The main point I can cite for this, and I'm sure you're going to talk about this later, and I'm sorry I'm stealing this point from you now, is Tinkerbell is not... Her flight is just completely out of the blue.
It is so sad.
When I saw it, people didn't even realize it was her, because they thought it was like going to be built up to a bit more. So people were kind of like, oh, look, there she is. Oh, yay, yay, yay. But they had no idea she was coming. Like, we had no idea.
On the live stream, I was like, wait, when did Tinkerbell come out? Because like it instantly just showed her in the sky. I was like, wait, there was no pause, there was nothing to know that she came out.
It was so random. Like in every show, I mean, she's flown for what, 3 shows now? More if you count the seasonal ones, but I'm not going to talk about those. Like Fantasy in the Sky, Wishes, and Happily all had her built up in some way. I think arguably the best way they built her up was in Happily, because it was at the end of the show and had this like beautiful little intro to her segment. But I mean, here they did not lead up to it at all. It's just like the music in this show is just so poorly arranged. Like nothing is built up to. It's ridiculous. Anyway, with that, I'll let you get back to your rant.
The theme song in general, like if you just heard it separately, it's a beautiful, beautiful song. But it didn't fit as a fireworks show. It just felt too slow, if you know what I mean. And since we're just talking about Tinkerbell, just to get on briefly, since it is the finale of the show, I do love how Tinkerbell comes out. They actually used a projection, and when it shot up to the column of the tower, that's when she instantly came out. So it was like you know how we saw like in Mulan or the Magic of Memories in You, like you see like a kind of glowing, or like a cannonball shoot out, and projection and it shoots out with an actual firework. They did the exact same thing but with Tinkerbell. It's just the build-up was horrible. Like in Happy Ever After, they sing the words "You Can Fly" just like the theme song in the song in Peter Pan. And then when she comes out, you have this whole organization and this whole choir starts building up this emotional finale. This show didn't do that at all because it just kept on singing. Like it didn't give me any chill. It's just like they don't even acknowledge that this is when Tinkerbell comes out. They are saying that you can fly, but it just didn't make sense to me. It came out at the worst timing possible.
I think the thing to say about the theme song, and I may as well get this out of the way now, because I did talk about it briefly with the Cavalcades, is if you take this song out of the context of this terrible show, it is a good song. It is an objectively good anniversary theme, even if it is saying, in the context of this management status, oh, it's kind of manipulative. It's saying, oh, you're the magic, give us more money. Like,
You're the consumer.
Exactly.
Give us more.
Exactly. I mean, that's what it is. And it's a fine song. Like, it's a good anniversary theme. I think The Magic is Calling is better. We'll get to that when we come to Water Pageant, but it's fine. But I just wanted to touch on that really quickly. If you separate the theme song from the show, then it's a much better.
Yeah. I remember when it shows the behind the scenes of the Enchantment, which at the time I was really hyped up for it. It sounded amazing, you're right, to me, just the theme song alone. And then now we saw the final product, and, all of our opinions have changed. But anyways, just get more into the segments of the show. As much as I love Princess Tiana and the movie Princess and the Frog, I don't think they should have given that big of a segment. Because even though in Happily Ever After, they only sang the very first song in the movie, which I don't remember the song name.
Oh my god, I'm blanking on it too now. No, I had it in my head and I'm blanking on it. I'm so sorry. Please continue. I'm sorry.
But anyways, that, Happy After when you hear Princess Tiana, it was a perfect transition to like, Little Mermaid. You get all these people who have a wish, and her song, that first song, is literally about making a wish, and that was a perfect transition to everything. And then you go through the adventure and the villains come out, stuff like that for Happy Ever After. In this, I can see what they're trying to do, since when we heard the narrator talk about like, this show is so bad I don't remember the narration, but pretty much the narration kind of transitioned to it slightly, but it's just that segment was stretched way too long. Like, I can say, like, for example, like Illuminate Nighttime Celebration, they kind of stretched out all these segments so long that's why the show couldn't really transition as well. Even though Illuminate was a decent show compared to this.
Illuminate is like,
it's an okay show. It's like a party, which is
it's a party, but it looks like Reflections of Earth compared to this. Like, it is
superior. Sure, the dubstep, like the remix of Avengers, was horrible, but otherwise, the music was amazing. The projection was amazing, and it was just a big upgrade. And we're talking about Illuminate, not Enchantment now. But
yeah, I don't even remember how I felt about that show. I have to rewatch our review of it, which I'll link up here.
Anyways, we go to I think Moana. Why did you put Moana? I could swear that Moana, the hype of it just died like 2 years ago.
I don't even think that's true. I like Moana just fine. They had it in Happily Ever After, and I think it is their most popular movie of the last 5 or 6 years. But that said,
it's too much.
It was handled, and it's not. It was handled better in Happily, where they did How Far I'll Go. I'm sorry, I don't have any connection to We Know the Way. Like, what did it have to do with the song? I mean, that also leads into another point I have, which is, what on earth does this show have to do with Walt Disney World's 50th anniversary? The answer is zero. Like, there is not it doesn't have a single ounce to do with the 50th. I mean, I made a 50th show. I'm gonna link that up here as well. I made a show that actually was dedicated to the resort's 50th anniversary, hoping that Enchantment would be something like that. And unfortunately, I was wrong. But, I mean, this is so much worse than I could have imagined. But, I mean, look, I understand what they're doing with these two things opening the show. And I'm not even that mad about them. In fact, I think they're a very good way to open the show. I think Almost There is a fantastic song. And I think We Know the Way is a good song, even if it doesn't belong in this show. But it's very disjointed. It doesn't make a ton of sense. It doesn't fit into any theme. It's just sort of Disney music. Yay! Like, that's just sort of it.
On the most popular movies. That's basically it. But to talk a little bit about the history thing you were talking about, this is my main argument about Disney Enchantment, besides like the terrible transitions, the choice of music, is for this nighttime show about the 50th anniversary, either create a show of the history of the park or make a show of a music celebration, like Illuminate, where there's really like a party, you're celebrating with all this new Disney IP. Like, that's fine. I'm okay with you using this much Disney songs. Just do a good arrangement, which wasn't really in this case was good, and don't overuse like a single movie. Like Illuminate, they use several songs, which I absolutely love those arrangements. And even though they didn't really talk about any history, well, Shanghai doesn't really have a history yet. It's only been 5 years old. But you know what I mean, right?
No, you're right, yeah. I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I think we all know by this point, the Chapek administration has a weird obsession with Moana. We saw it when it almost took over Tiki Room. We saw it when it did take over the Polynesian. The Chapek administration really likes that movie. And look, it's a good movie. I adore it. It's probably my favorite Disney movie of the last 15 years. But it's a lot. It's a lot. And, I mean, I think you spoke to it. Like, they can't try to play it both ways. It's either a fun musical celebration of Disney music, or a 50th show. It cannot be both.
Yeah, exactly. And I also think Moana is a beautiful movie. When I watched it in theaters, I got chills at like near the end of the movie. Like I kind of teared up a bit. But it's just, right now it's just annoying to hear these songs in the park. It's just just like Frozen. Frozen that has lasted in the parks for years after the movie came out. And as much as I love Frozen and the songs that are pretty catchy, it's just annoying to hear these. That's why whenever I see the movie, I see like a glimpse of a picture of Frozen, I get annoyed instantly.
Speaking of Frozen, because we're already 15 minutes into this singular show, let's move on a little bit, because there is a Frozen segment, and as much as I love talking about this, I'm sure there is a limit as to what my phone can store.
Yeah,
so
okay. Let's move to HarmonioUS, which...
No, I don't even mean that. I mean, let's just move on in the segments of the show. Like, what comes after Moana?
There's this transition to, I think it was Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin a bit, Toy Story. It was like, in Happily Ever After, when you have the genie come out, you have the friendship segment. Basically that, but in a worst way. This is when they put the Main Street projections in, which...
Oh! Can I talk about those really quickly?
Yes, you can go first.
So, that was the big thing we were told was coming with this show. That was the thing that everyone was told, wow, the hype, it's gonna happen. Disneyland's had it for 6 years, and it's better. Like, everyone on my channel knows by now, I hate Mickey's Mixed Magic with a burning passion. I cannot stand that show. But I will say, it used Main Street projections in a more clever and better utilized way than this show does. There is one good effect in this show with the Main Street projections, and even then it doesn't hold a candle to like a single effect in Disneyland Forever or even Mixed Magic. Like, because they do the thing with the like Neverland where the buildings descend and you go up into the clouds, but it's like...
Oh, that looked horrible. It
didn't look good, but it was the best effect on the projections. But I think that they did that better in Disneyland, where in the finale of Disneyland Forever, you had, like, the buildings, like, fluttering away and then coming back together. Like, that was handled much better. Anyway, long story short, the Main Street projections in Enchantment are atrocious. Like... Yeah.
I feel like the quality of it, like, the projection, like, how bright or how strong it is not as good as Disneyland Forever. And also talk about the Main Street projections in general. Disney has been doing these projections for years. Not only just Disneyland, they have it at Tokyo Disneyland for like the small projection shows they have, and they even have it for Hong Kong Disneyland. They should already have enough experience to have an idea of what they could do with Main Street projections. Since they know Disneyland Forever, which I believe was the very first time to use projections on Main Street. It was done in a beautiful way. Hong Kong Disneyland, I think it was a show called I think We Love Mickey. I don't remember. Yeah, that was handled really, really well, because they even had they interacted with the windows of showing the shadows of the broomsticks, and they did every little thing that just improved it. The Main Street projections, how they can utilize these in a much better way. I think Tokyo Disneyland barely used it, just used for sparkle effects, but it's still done in a decent way. And this show just destroyed it, and it's just unbelievable. When I saw the projections, I thought it would be used in the introduction of the show, not 10 minutes in.
Yeah, it started really randomly. It started in that that Soul segment. I actually haven't seen Soul yet. I need to get on that. I've heard it's a very good movie, and I don't necessarily have an issue with it being in a nighttime show, but it certainly seemed like a weird point in the show to start the Main Street projections. Yeah. In Disneyland Forever, it started with the orange groves coming up when the lady said, just imagine if you were standing right here over 60 years ago. It's beautiful, and I think Disneyland Forever was not a good anniversary show. I don't pretend that it was. It was not on any level a good
I always say that
anniversary
it's a good show at itself. If it was an anniversary show, it would be the top show forever. It's amazing.
Exactly. It is a fantastic show. I think it is probably one of, if not the single best IP shows ever developed. It's just not a good anniversary show. And, I mean, the Main Street projections were fantastic in that show. But anyway, we have to keep moving through Enchantment, so the projections are bad. Moving on.
Into the Unknown.
Oh, God, this made me so mad.
Vocals, the arrangement, not good.
Nope, not at all.
Not good at all. The projection was just confusing to me. And if you want to move a bit faster, goes instantly to the villain segment, which I have no idea what was happening.
I want to talk about the villain segment, though. I mean,
yes, go first.
Just to talk about Into the Unknown, totally forgettable. Like, I don't even need to talk about it. It was just forgettable. But the villain segment did do something very interesting, which I thought was worth talking about, is it did recycle some music. It recycled the electric guitar version of Night on Bald Mountain, which is used in Frightfully Fun, which actually made me very happy because I do love that arrangement. But it was a very strange choice, and it came really, really out of left field. It was really a random start to the villain segment. Like, I mean, there is no way, like, every way you look at this, it was done better in Happily Ever After. And that absolutely includes the villain segment, where it was led into from the Mulan segment, which was just a perfect transition. And now it's just sort of like, oh, okay, the villains are taking over now. Okay, bye. I mean, it's fun. It's I think, maybe the best section of the show. But, I mean, that doesn't mean it's good. It's the music, the underlying theme that they stole from Frightfully Fun is good, but it doesn't work particularly well in a fireworks show, and it is not a great segment. It is the best segment in the show, possibly, but it is not a good segment.
Yeah, and to also add on to that, if you compare besides transitioning, okay, if you compare Happily Ever After to Disney Enchantment, the projections in Happily Ever After was much better to me, because the mainstream projections in Enchantment don't even really follow the castle. Like, you don't show the villains on the castle, so everyone on Main Street they don't know what is happening besides you're hearing some Fantasia music. Or from Fantasmic, I don't know.
Right, I saw this on Main Street, and I was so confused.
Yeah, because you look at Happily Ever After, you have all these effects that are like these sound effects that kind of tell you, okay, yeah, this is happening, and these villains literally take up like half of the castle. Like when Ursula comes out, she's like on the whole top part of the castle, so almost everyone on Main Street can see her. You have Jafar come out as a giant snake. He's like strolling around the whole castle fighting Aladdin. Like those, or like the Incredible Ball. You see him like he's on the top half of the castle, like breaking the whole entire bottom castle.
And also, you have to remember with Happily Ever After, because I mean, I know we're comparing this show a lot to Happily Ever After, but you can't not do that. It replaced it. Like, I'm sorry.
Happily Ever After is the only projection show really that they had for regular nighttime shows.
Right, but also, when you look at stuff like Ursula for Happily Ever After, like, you have to remember, they created new animation for that. That was brand new stuff that they created for that show. I don't think there is a single piece of this show for Enchantment that was specifically created for it. Like, I think that is another thing that you have to remember, is that there was, like, actual artistry that went into Happily Ever After with brand new animation and some really just incredible, like, aspects that I'm not going to talk about right now because we're running out of time, but that were just absolutely incredible. And Enchantment doesn't amount to that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I have been hearing a lot of, live streamers who were watching this on Main Street. They didn't even know what villains were coming out, because like like in the I Can Go to Disney segment in Happily Ever After, when it shows like little circles of the characters in different movies, right?
Yeah, of course.
That was basically what they did to almost every single segment of this fireworks show. It's so tiny that almost no one knows what was happening. And like one of the coolest scenes in Happily Ever After is that when Maleficent comes out, she takes up the whole tower, like so everyone can see her, and the whole castle is all green. It's like almost destroyed. Like, that is what we should have seen for Enchantment, or they should have done something creative. Because every villain, or like the heroes in this villain segment, they interacted with the castle. Aladdin was jumping around the castle that looked like, he was actually there. But
right, yeah.
This just failed in every
aspect. It was bad. Anyway, let's move on to the finale, which hopefully we can just get done really quickly. Because, it was bad. The
finale is horrible.
The finale is incredibly weak. Like, I honestly think, I mean, I know I dissed this a lot in the video I did on it. I think, Not So Spooky Spectacular has a better finale. And I
was gonna say that.
I was very vocal about my distaste with that, and I think it does have a better finale than Enchantment. It is incredibly sad. Like, I don't even know how people wrote this off and said, yep, that's a decent finale. I have no idea how people, like, I know obviously it wasn't the fault of the designers. I'm sure that this show was supposed to be much grander and much better, and obviously that was held back through budget cuts. But yeah, the show we got is atrocious, and the finale is atrocious along with it. And we are now 25 minutes into talking about Disney Enchantment. So, Chris, do you have anything to say about the finale before we wrap off this segment?
Really quickly, even though you have two new launch sites for this regular nighttime show, doesn't mean that the finale is more explosive. Happily Ever After looked better in every aspect in the finale. The last 10 seconds than Enchantment. Like, okay, viewers might not understand what I'm saying, but as they use cross-set fireworks to kind of like, fly away or break into two stars.
No, I mean, I think the way to describe it is that Happily actually used rooftop launches in its finale.
Yeah.
Where Enchantment doesn't, and they use these really cheap shells in the back of the park.
Yeah, and like, Happily After finale, when you use those rooftop fireworks with the multicolored comments, it looks just like the 4th of July fireworks show they use, the New Year fireworks shows. Those kind of fill up the sky to me for some reason. It just looks more impressive. It looks like an actual finale, and it's just so colorful that it would have been beautiful with Enchantment. But of course, I guess they went cheap on that, or they're not on a strict time schedule too. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. The last thing I'll say about this show before we move on is I am intrigued to find out what the development process of this show was, because look, Disney Imagineers, especially Disney Pyro Imagineers, do not want to do a bad job. Like, they want to do good shows. No one wants to do a bad show. Like, that's just...
Yeah.
Like, why would you want to do that? You don't. So, obviously... And I'm sure they could have seen that... I'm sure they could have seen the negative response to this coming. Because, I mean, it's too bad of a show not to. So, I'm sure that one of possibly a couple things happened. I'm sure this got budget cut. I am 100% sure of that. Because there is not a chance it didn't. There is not a chance that the 50th anniversary show for Walt Disney World was developed to be this. Because there's just not a chance. It's so bad. Like, there is not a chance that they planned the show to be this cheap.
I'd actually rather have them delay the show like another year or so to make the show better.
Yeah, I mean, they could have done what they did with the 25th and just put a tag on Happily Ever After.
Yeah, they should have done that. That would, like, if they used like the actual anniversary theme song and they created a more like, a much better, like, in the parade, they kind of switched the arrangement a bit. If they did that to like a special title Happily Ever After, that would be amazing. Because not only Happily Ever is an amazing show, the theme song is also a pretty good theme song too. So that would be really beautiful to see.
Yeah. And also, just going back to my point, I'm really intrigued to see what the development process of this was, because it was definitely budget cut, but I don't actually know how long they had to develop this show. Because it's possible, did this get announced it got announced I
think the week before.
No, it wasn't the week before it premiered. It was announced a while ago, but, I mean, it was announced after Happily Ever After was scheduled to return, which was announced in, I think, the beginning of July, maybe the end of June. I can't remember quite. No, it had to be the end of June because it returned on July 1st, so it was definitely the end of June. But, I mean, if it was announced after Happily Ever After's return, then it can be assumed that it either was in development before then, or was sprung into development immediately after Happily Ever After was scheduled to return, specifically because they didn't know if the 50th was going to be able to get a nighttime show. And if that is the case, that means they had, 120 some odd days to develop this show. And if that is the case, that is, if that is actually what happened, that would be a very good explanation as to why the show is what it is. Because, and if that is actually true, I am willing to give the show a little bit of leeway because of that. Because that is not the fault of the Imagineers. I mean, honestly, let's call a spade a spade. That's not even the fault of management. They legitimately did not know if they were going to be able to do a fireworks show for the 50th because they didn't know how the pandemic was going to shake out. So I completely understand why they did what they did, if that is the case. If not, though, they really have no excuse. And even then, they really could have been working on this show a lot earlier. They could have been, even if it wasn't ever going to debut. We know Disney has been working on a ton of shows that never debuted, and a lot of those have come out in the public eye over the past year and a half as Imagineers have gotten laid off and have started posting their unreleased work on the internet. Like, we've seen that a lot of shows get developed and then don't get put out into the open. So they could have been developing this a lot earlier if that was the case. So really, no matter how you look at it, this show is terrible, and the way that it is really not forgivable in any way.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that.
So, that's Disney Enchantment. And now that we are 30 full minutes into talking about that, let's move on to a segment that's definitely going to be even longer than that and talk about Harmonious. Okay, so after looking at the footage I already have and realizing that it is a lot, we are going to do this segment a little bit differently, because there is a lot to say about Harmonious, and I just don't think we can go through each individual section. I'm sorry, I just don't think we're going to be able to do that. So we're going to have to talk a little bit more blanket when it comes to this show. And we can talk about specific things we like. I can definitely talk about a couple things myself, but I think we can start off by saying Harmonious is a lot better than Enchantment. It is not a... It's only an abomination in that what it replaced and what park it's at. If it were literally anywhere else, it would be a fantastic show. Like, it is the fact that it's at Epcot is the issue. Because, I'm gonna be honest, it's really good. It is a good show. It is a very good show, even. And, I mean, I know people can a lot of people disagree with me on that, and that's fine. But I think it is a good show if it were not at Epcot. If they put these barges at, like, Disney Springs, if they put these in Seven Seas Lagoon outside Magic Kingdom and did this show there, this would be an amazing show. Like, this would be one of the best shows they've ever done. But it's not. It's at Epcot, where IP doesn't belong. And where, where this show doesn't belong. Like, that's the issue with it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Harmonious makes this whole anniversary, or like makes all the anniversary shows just look really sad, especially because they are really sad. Harmonious probably got the most love out of the rest of these nighttime shows.
And what's the most sad about that is Harmonious wasn't supposed to debut at the 50th. It was originally supposed to debut in May of 2020. Yep. It was supposed to debut over a year ago, and they decided to delay it to the 50th because they had nothing better to do.
Anyways, let's go straight into the show as fast as we can, okay? Okay.
Yeah, let's go straight into it. I think we don't have to go section by section. I think it's fine. I think it all blends together anyway. The one thing that I will say is absolutely atrocious about Harmonious, the actual show, is the transitions are terrible. There is no transition between the music. It is arranged absolutely horribly.
Even the music in each segment, like for example, Lion King, the transitions from the different songs from the from the native language to English was really abrupt. Like from I think it was Hakuna Matata, and it goes instantly to this African song that I have no idea what it is. It was just a really jarring, like, I was like, wait, what was that?
They made some very strong choices with that show, though, which I appreciate. At least they fell forward. They didn't go with the safest option. For instance, they did not use classic recordings. They did not use classic recordings of Disney songs. Many of those are from the Broadway versions of their respective shows. Specifically, the version of the version of Circle of Life that they played is from the Broadway version of The Lion King, which I really appreciate because that is a nice little way to differentiate some things. It's nice. I like it. And the finale, which it's not. We'll talk about this later. It's not an original song, but it is something that is somewhat unique and obscure. Is from the stage version of Hunchback, which is nice. Like, it's nice to see those little changes and alterations to, say, a traditional IP show. But I think that does lead me into the other main issue with HarmonioUS, which is there is no original song. There's not even a 50th theme. There's nothing original with it. Like, even Enchantment was able to get that new song they wrote into it. It's not particularly well edited into the show, but at least it's there. And HarmonioUS couldn't even do that. But that said, actually, I'm not going to say that yet. Chris, do you have anything you'd like to say about HarmonioUS?
Yeah, I realized, okay, you know how I like Jungle Book Jive, right? Like a little bit, not completely in love with it, but I actually do love the soundtrack.
The Paris one, right?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
They used one of the audio for HarmonioUS. So in the Jungle Book segment, so the vocals aren't from the show, but the instrumental background is exactly Jungle Book Jive right before the finale segment. I want to point that out.
I didn't notice that, okay.
I was kind of like, yeah. I noticed it instantly because like in Jungle Book Jive, there's like that woman singer, I don't know what her name is or anything, but her voice is in it. So I instantly heard it. And talk about the intro of the show. It's interesting to see or hear what they did, how they overlapped all these different type of cultures, different type of languages, different movies in. It sounds like a mess to me. I believe in a really old video I watched a long time ago about Small World. When they were writing the song for Small World, or creating the different segments for it, I believe the original concept was to have the finale segment of all the languages singing together. No,
the original concept was going to be that through the entire show, every country would sing its national anthem. I know where you're going with this. And when they actually played it, it was absolutely terrible.
If you overlap these, they knew that it would sound horrible, which I kind of felt that same way because at one point in HarmonioUS, they played 3 songs over the top of each other, and they're both on their own native language. And I was just like kind of confused. Like I heard Hunchback, and then you hear Frozen and Lion King at the exact same time, and a little bit of Moana. Like that, I was so confused. But the intro was stunning to me. It visually stunning, and the music was quite amazing. Hearing Hunchback, I Can Go the Distance. I don't know why it's there. It's not in the World Showcase. Isn't that Greece?
That's something I actually want to talk about. That's something I want to talk about. Is that the choices they made for this show? They made strong choices, and these are not things that I hate. These are just things that I noticed and I'm not thrilled by, but I am willing to tolerate because they're strong choices and I appreciate that. The native language singing of Disney songs is a good idea. I'd even say it's a good idea. It's a very nice way of looking at things. But it's not really a nice way of looking at things when you say the entire world is kind of built around, like when they try and say this is a show comprising native cultures and then only play Disney songs. Which, like, just, if you really wanted to do that, then maybe you should have just played songs from these various countries. And that also leads me into my next point, which is very few of these songs and these segments actually have pavilions in World Showcase. Like, a lot of them have been rumored pavilions or even planned pavilions that have been so close to almost happening, including Greece, Brazil, and Africa, which is not a country and is in fact a continent, but for some reason they wanted to do that as its own pavilion instead of a country within Africa, but that's another story. But they, like, put all these segments in that have nothing to do with World Showcase, so, like, I kinda get what they were doing, but it also made very little sense to me. I mean, it's common knowledge now that they were planning to add a Brazil pavilion when this show was being developed, so that I understand. But Greece and Africa and a couple of these other ones, I mean, the answer is that if you were to do a show without mentioning the existence of Africa, that would be not okay. So, I mean, I get why they did it, but then maybe that's just speaking to the fact that they really should just build a World Showcase Pavilion dedicated to an African country. So, you know, maybe they should just do that. But, I mean, the native language thing was cool. I feel like it's a bit of Disney tooting their own horn, basically saying, oh, look how our culture brings people together, instead of, like, actually representing the cultures of these places they're meant to be representing. But, I mean, I think it's a decent way to do a show.
Yeah, and, going back to the intro on, like, what I was thinking, the intro is a very strong intro. Besides hearing all there's just too much Moana. I feel like Moana was in the intro more than any other song. But, hearing, I believe it was Danny Goki, which is one of my favorite singers, hear him, like, sing the rest of the finale, it just sounded more, I don't know, it just sounded really, really good. And how, like, the notes kept on getting higher and higher in the intro, that I thought, like, it wasn't going to end. And then all of a sudden it stops, and then you have Aladdin for some reason. Also, talk about Aladdin a bit. What's up with the animation of the genie? He's just, like, waving his arms side to side on the screen, jumping on each screen. I was so confused about laughing at the same time.
There was some random stuff like that. The thing I really noticed was you could tell that there was clearly a disconnect between some departments, because, like, the one that really called out to me was the Brave segment, was when they had the bagpipes on the taco screens, and the fountains were clearly supposed to be synced up to the bagpipes, but they weren't, meaning that someone screwed up somewhere, either in programming or in just relaying that information between departments. But you could see exactly what they were going for and how they messed up.
There are some really beautiful little things I found, mainly in the Coco segment. You know, when Coco segment starts of Remember Me, they have the water fountains they're like candles, basically. How they're the height, how they're lit, look exactly like candles, which is perfect. And how it moves on to the oh, sorry, can you remind me what was that other world called? Sorry, the World of the Dead, I think. Remind me. Oh,
yeah. But that actually does lead into something that I wanted to talk about, which is enough negativity. This show is very good, and I want to talk about the good stuff.
Okay.
Mainly the final 3 segments of the show. Coco, Princess and the Frog, and the finale are fantastic. Or, sorry, not Coco, because it's not just Coco. It's supposed to be, like, Mexico and the Latin America section of the show. And it is really fantastic. It has... I mean, the Coco segment is beautiful. It has references to Saludos Amigos, which I really wasn't expecting and was really pleasantly surprised by. And it's just it's a fantastic segment. And then that Princess and the Frog segment is phenomenal. It's amazing, especially given that they are basically putting their foot down, and this is something I really appreciate. They are basically putting their foot down and saying that American music is African American music, which I do really, really appreciate, and I mean, it's also just accurate. So, you know, and I'm sorry to get, some would say political, but, like, I just think that's true and something that is very admirable. Yeah. They are putting a stake in the ground by doing that, and I really, really appreciate it. Because, I mean, really, the only other way they could have done that segment that I would have appreciated is if they had done it, like, Pocahontas style, but even then, you can get into some dicey waters because that movie is how do I say, grossly historically inaccurate.
Yeah, it's very
So, I am very happy with what they did with that Princess and the Frog America segment. I was stunned by how beautiful it was. And I also did notice in that segment, they did something really cool, which is they recycled some animation on the screens from Mickey and the Magical Map, which is something I wasn't expecting, and actually something I appreciated, because that stuff in the finale of Magical Map was beautiful, and I'm very glad that it got reused somewhere. So that made me very happy. Anyway, sorry to interrupt you, Chris. Go back to talking about how amazing the Coco segment was.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So also about the Coco segment, we go to the Living of the Dead. I think that's the name. I'm so sorry. Please correct us or whatever.
Yeah, it's very late at night while we're filming this. We apologize if we misstate anything or offend anyone. Yeah, we just apologize if we do that. I'm still on East Coast time, so it feels like 1 a.m. So I apologize.
On the beautiful barges, they show those pedal bridges.
Oh, like they're marigold pedals. Like
yeah, and then those really those octopus arms come out, right? And they're literally angled downwards with the water can shooting like following the actual bridge. If you actually look at it very closely, when they showed that bridge, it literally comes out of the screen basically, which was a really nice touch. And when the mythical creature comes out of the cat, right?
Oh, the Alabrijes.
Yeah, when his face is on the circle barge, all the other talk barges actually show the wings, and it actually will be flapping, and those arms actually kind of move a bit to match the animation.
There was some really
clever.
There was some really neat stuff they did with the screens and the barge. Like, does it justify them destroying World Showcase Lagoon? Absolutely not. But they still were able to do some really cool things with the barges that I appreciated very much. And this segment was really the best evidence of that.
Harmonious as a whole, the technological and how it looks is amazing. Don't get me wrong now. It's visually stunning. I cannot stop saying that. Every time I see Harmonious, I'm just like, wow. Like, that looks amazing. But it's the fact that...
So, Chris's phone died midway through us filming our response to Harmonious, so I'm going to be finishing this video myself. Long story short with Harmonious, it's a good show. It doesn't belong at Epcot, but it is indeed a good show, and I'm happy it's there, and I will definitely be viewing it. I'll definitely be viewing it probably a bit more. I don't know if I would say the same for Enchantment. I think I might not. I mean, this is crazy for me to say because I am like the nighttime show super fan, but I don't necessarily know if I would watch Enchantment on a given day at Magic Kingdom just because I don't think it's that good. But Harmonious I would absolutely watch. It is a good enough show that I would be willing to wait for. And I think that's really all I have to say about it, because I think Chris really hit a lot of those points really, really well on what I think is good about it and what it really stands for and what it's good. And I like it. It's a good show. The last piece of entertainment I will be talking about tonight is the update to the Electrical Water Pageant on Seven Seas Lagoon, which is my single favorite thing they've done. I thought I would end on a positive note by talking about this. Electrical Water Pageant is one of my favorite things at the Walt Disney World Resort, specifically because it is so unique. No other resort has something like that. Like, yes, we have the Main Street Electrical Parade at just about every park, but, like, Water Pageant is really what kicked that off and really what started the whole nighttime entertainment craze. Like, yes, we had fireworks dating back to the 50s, but this really led a new generation in nighttime shows and nighttime show designers, and it's a fantastic show. And also, it's one of the only things actually turning 50 this year, so I really like that they gave it this update. And the update is phenomenal. They did an amazing job with it. They play audio that is perfectly matching to that show. And what I mean by that is they added in the song, The Magic is Calling, which is the 50th anniversary theme song, but they rewrote it into the electro-synthomagnetic musical sound style of the electrical parades, which I really appreciated. And, I mean, the new elements are just fantastic. They did an amazing job. They put brand new, like, in previous versions of the show, each barge, each flat screen on the water pageant has had 2 separate scenes. The sea creatures and then the patriotic finale. This added a 3rd scene for the first time ever, which is pretty incredible. Also given this is the very first color-changing scene to utilize LEDs to ever come to water pageant, which is also just incredible. And they did an amazing job. The like swooshes of magic look fantastic. The glitter, the like glittering sparkles of pixie dust look amazing. And the 50th castle they put on looks phenomenal. It's a very good update, and the audio is a wonderful tribute to the history of the show and the water pageant as a whole. And I just think it's a wonderful update to one of my favorite shows on property. And I just think it was a great little gesture they did. It's really just wonderful. Like, the only thing, my only nitpick with it is that they took out, and I understand why they did this, so I'm not mad in any way, but it's just like, they took, I mean, this is actually my ringtone, too, which is why I'm kind of saddened by it, is they took out the original intro, or not the original intro, but the musical intro for the 1994 version of Water Pageant, which is, I mean, it's fine, it still appears later in the show, so it's really fine, but if I had to choose one thing that I wish hadn't been tampered with, that would be it, but it's really, it's phenomenal. I think it is absolutely the best version of Water Pageant that has ever been presented. I think it is the best piece of entertainment for the 50th anniversary, and in fact, I think it might be the best entertainment, the best nighttime show left on property. I think this is better than Harmonious and Enchantment. Like, I try to be very positive with Harmonious because I thought it was a good show, but I think I would rather watch this than Harmonious because it really pays tribute to the 50-year history of Walt Disney World, which is what this celebration should have been about in the first place, and I still don't understand why they chose not to do that. But that said, I mean, it's a wonderful update. They did a very good job on it, and props to the Imagineers for this one, because it is the single best thing I have seen in Walt Disney World for several years now. I think since Pandora, this is the best thing that has come to the parks, and it's just wonderful. I really appreciate that they did this. And that really leads into my conclusion with the 50th, which is this celebration was, for lack of a better word, botched by the higher-up stuff, and by management, and really by the full-on entertainment. I was incredibly disappointed by the big stuff they did for this, because it was Ratatouille, which I saw in Paris and was thoroughly unimpressed by. It was Kite Tails, which was atrocious. It was Enchantment, which was very bad. Harmonious, which was at the wrong park, but very decent. And then these Cavalcades, which were not much of anything other than cute little midday things. And then Water Pageant, which was admittedly good, but not, like, something that should have been the headlining piece of the 50th anniversary. Like, I obviously appreciate they updated it and that they did pay tribute to something that is turning 50, but an actual show from 50 years ago should not have been the main piece of the 50th anniversary. It should have been either a new show that was paying tribute to the 50-year history, or an old show brought back, but not something that's been running for 50 years straight. I love Water Pageant. I don't want to see it ever go. But that said, it has been running for 50 years straight, completely uninterrupted, except for the closure of 2020, and even then, it came back in January of 2021, so it was only gone for, I don't know, 9 months. So 50 years minus 9 months is really good for a show like that, and I never want to see it go, but that said, it's been running for 50 years, so I don't necessarily think it could qualify as a main piece of the 50th anniversary, since it is not new. It is quite literally one of the oldest things on property, and I love it for that. But the thing with the 50th is, what made this celebration magical was the little things, because they did a really good job with some very specific things, and those things were merchandising and food service. Because I don't know if you guys were keeping track of, like, the Parks blog and various fan sites who were reporting on all this stuff, but some of the stuff they did for the 50th and for the kickoff of the world's most magical celebration is legitimately fantastic. Like, some highlights that are coming to mind for me are the Mission to Mars burger paying tribute to the attraction in Tomorrowland that was there from 74 to, like, 94, I think. I'm not entirely sure on those dates. They might be a little different. Feel free to correct me in the comments. Or the Mr. Toad burger, which looks exactly like Mr. Toad, which, of course, you've had a ride at Magic Kingdom from 1971 to 1998. Or my personal favorite, the If You Had Chicken Wings at Lunching Pad in Tomorrowland, which, of course, pays tribute to If You Had Wings, which was there from 72 to 89. There's these wonderful little references. And, of course, oh my god, how could I forget? The Uncle Orville in the bathtub Carousel of Progress themed ice cream sundae.
No privacy at all around this place.
Sorry, Orville.
What? That is the most fantastic thing I have seen come to a Disney park in a very long time, and I am just blown away by what they did. And the merchandising team did a fantastic job too. I personally didn't pick up a ton of the 50th stuff because, quite frankly, it was the longest lines in the park on October 1st, and for good reason, because it's good merch. But the stuff they did is fantastic. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the iridescent thing. I mean, it just kind of seems cheap to me. But a lot of the throwback stuff they did was very, very nice and very well handled. They did these, like, new tumblers that are, like, based on the 70s shopping bag art. And they did these, like, I mean, we've all heard about the Vault collection by now, where they made reproductions of things that are, like, that haven't existed for decades. Like, one of the things they made, which I couldn't resist buying, was a 1971 park map. They made a reproduction of a park map that hasn't been seen for 50 years. That's incredible. I don't even know if, like, any other park would do that. I mean, I know Disneyland does it, but I don't know if other parks do that, and I hope they do, because it is fantastic. It is really the little stuff that made this celebration. The songs they made, as I said, were very well written. I mean, it is a very Tokyo thing to do, to write a theme song for an anniversary, and that's a good thing. Because, I said this earlier, the last time they got a full dedicated anniversary theme was for the 25th. And before that, it had been a much more common thing. I don't remember if the 20th got one. I know the 15th did. I know the 10th did. So, it's nice to see that sort of coming back. And I really hope they do it in the future for either the 55th or the 60th or the 65th or the 70th, etc., etc. But it was really the little things that made the celebration. And it was a wonderful little time. I do still want to put pressure on it that this is not, like, this is not enough to be a full celebration for 50 years of the vacation kingdom of the world, for half a century of the most popular tourist destination on Earth. This is still not enough to justify that, and shame on management for not putting more into this. But I was very pleased as a nutcase Disney fan who cares about this stuff way too much that they did pay tribute to the 50 years of Walt Disney World's history in very small, very noticeable ways. And I really do appreciate that. It wasn't how I would have handled the 50th. It would have been something if I were the person running the 50th, I would have probably done those things as well, but I would have preferred something a little bit bigger, say maybe, I don't know, what Disneyland did for the 50th, where they announced they were bringing back the submarine voyage. They had a new fireworks show, two new parades, and, like, a bunch of other stuff. Like, I wish that we had gotten something like that, but I was perfectly pleased by the little things that they did, and I appreciate that even if higher-ups at the company are really trying to do as little as possible, that there are smaller divisions of this company that are really still trying, and that makes me very happy. And I have hopes, because I know that October 1st, even though it was the 50th anniversary and had very little to do on that day, was just the kickoff of the 50th anniversary celebration, or the most magical celebration on Earth. I'm hoping that over the next 18 months that we'll get some bigger stuff. Because I know we're still technically recovering from a pandemic, even though from being there I can say that it did not feel that way while I was in the parks, because capacity is very much back to where it was pre-pandemic. So they can say it's COVID. I think that's kind of an excuse now, because if they really cared about COVID, they would have a capacity cap much lower than what we were seeing on that day, because that was insanity. And like, obviously COVID is still an issue, people are still dying of it, and it's not funny, and they should be caring more about that. But the fact is, they're not. They're using the pandemic as an excuse to get rid of stuff that we had been promised, like, as Bob Chapek said, in the 2019 D23 Expo, the biggest celebration Walt Disney World has ever seen, its 50th anniversary. So, I mean, that's not what we got. It's not what we got so far, at least, I should say. I mean, I know we're supposed to be getting Guardians of the Galaxy, and fingers crossed, Tron by the end of this. And who knows, maybe there'll be some other surprises that come back, too. Which would make me very, 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 very happy. But, yeah, so there'll be an update. I'll make an update video if that happens, but, you know, until then, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Yeah, so if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking it and subscribing to my YouTube channel. I'm going to try and put out some more videos by the end of the year. Be sure to check out Chris's channel. He's been doing some really cool stuff lately. Yeah, I mean, there's not really anything else I have to say. Have a great, big, beautiful day, and remember, tomorrow is just a dream away. Happy 50th, everyone.